Something is hunting the city watch of King's Landing. Men who wear the gold cloak are being found dead in the streets of the very city they keep. And when one of the killers is finally taken alive, his payment is found hidden in his boot. A single gold coin. And stamped into that coin is the face of a boy the true history never once calls a king. That coin was minted at Tumbleton, in a captured town, by a lord who spends this hour telling history lessons, playing at a game of carved pieces, and quietly manufacturing a king. Book readers watched him do it with a strange double vision. Because in the pages of Fire and Blood, the man arranging all of this is already in his grave. Meanwhile, the greatest dragon of the age has vanished. Not fallen, not found, gone in the night, and the wounded prince she left behind can only whisper that without her, he is nothing. In the Riverlands, a nightman once called Kingmaker marches a dying army through the storm toward an end he has chosen. And he asks for only one thing: songs. Hold on to that word. The book answers him with a single line, and the line is a refusal. And beneath the Red Keep, two queens run for their lives through the dark and find a wall where a door should be, set there by a king who has been in his grave for the better part of a century, and who is somehow still winning. Carry one last thing into all of it. One book reader outlet gave this single hour 2 grades. Its recap called it classic television at its very best, and marked it an A+. Its own book column called it the weakest episode of the season, and marked the very same hour a C. Both verdicts are honest. Both, we will argue tonight, are true. And one invented conspiracy, the conspiracy that coin pays for, explains the gap between them. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. But tonight, as we have all season, we turn to the screen. House of the Dragon, Season 3, Episode 5. Unbowed and Unbent. Written by Filipa Goslet and directed by Nina Lopez Corrado. This is the 23rd episode of the series overall, and it runs roughly an hour. There is no battle in it. Instead, the episode plays 5 boards at once: the Riverlands, Harrenhal, King's Landing, Rook's Rest, and Tumbleton, and braids them together along a single dark spine. A murder mystery. Before we begin, if you enjoy these breakdowns, please subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps us, and it tells us you want more of the true history. And one more thing. Our companion app, Westeros Within, is now out for iPhone and iPad. It has our episodes, a library of illustrated read-along books with reading tracking, a character codex, and family trees of the houses of the dance. It is only the first version, and we are adding more to it all the time. So, if there is a feature you would like, or a family tree we should expand, tell us in the comments below. The link is in the description. Now, back to the dance. Here is how we will do this, the way we always do. We will walk through every scene of this episode in order. Beneath each one, we will lay down the true history as Fire and Blood tells it, told as a story, the way Archmeister Gildane set it down, with Mushroom, Septon Eustace, and Grandmaster Munkin quarreling in the margins. We will mark every change the show has made and reckon honestly with why each one matters. We will gather the Easter eggs the hour has hidden, open the mysteries it plants, wade into the argument book readers are having about it, and close, as we always close, with our honest verdict. If you have never read the book, you will leave knowing everything. If you have, then you already know why a night asking for songs made your chest go tight. Full spoilers start now, and the place to start is a war being fought backwards. To walk into this episode, we need a map, not of Westeros, of time. In Fire and Blood, the war's terrible arithmetic runs in one fixed order. The capital falls to Rhaenyra. Then comes the Butcher's Ball, where Criston Cole dies. Then, first Tumbleton, where Ormund Hightower dies. Only then, everything else. Hold that sequence, because the show has quietly turned it around. It played its Tumbleton battle last week, with Ormund alive and thriving, while Cole still marches. The death order of the two Green Commanders, inverted around a single hour of television. The hour opens in the Rivermen's war camp, with the Queen's army stalled. Lord Petter Piper brings the day's bad news. Another river crossing burned. Cole's raiders are torching every bridge ahead of them, and at this pace, the host will never reach Tumbleton. So Oscar Tully sends Piper ahead to secure the barges at Stony Sept, the last place an army this size can cross, while Roddy Dustin of the Winter Wolves growls to be let off the leash. The council that wins instead. Beat Cole at his own game. Remember that line, and every name at that table is real. Oscar Tully, Roddy Dustin, House Piper, all fight for the Queen in Fire and Blood, and a book reader's heart lifts just seeing the Winter Wolves ride. But watch Roddy Dustin, because the show is running up a debt on him. In the true history, his death and Ormund Hightower's death are the same moment, in the same battle, at Tumbleton. The show has already spent that battle, with both men still breathing. That bill comes due later in this video. Then comes the night, and Cole. His raiders slip into the sleeping camp, war paint streaked over polished plate, and the tents go up. Winter is coming described him emerging from the dark like a wraith, and Lord Peter Piper does not live to see morning. Thrilling television, and the most perfectly reversed image of the season. Because in Fire and Blood, Criston Cole is never the wraith. He is the prey. The true history gives Cole 3,600 men and marches them south through a land set on fire by its own defenders. The river lords burn their villages ahead of him and foul the wells. Riders harry his column by day. Terrors bleed it by night. At the village of Crossed Elms, Queen's men disguised as corpses rise up among the dead, the famous ruse of a sellsword called Black Trombo, and a dozen Greens die before the pretenders melt away. Desertion does the rest. Every guerrilla trick this episode hands to Criston Cole belongs, on the page, to his enemies, and it was used against him. The show gave the hunted man his hunter's playbook. That is the war turned backwards, and the last scenes of this hour will hand it back. Now the episode turns to Harrenhal, where bounty hunters have come for Aemond the Kinslayer, because the Queen, we learn, has put a price on him. The show is inventing here, but inventing from a real seed. In Fire and Blood, there is no great bounty on Aemond. The rewards Rhaenyra posts are for the 6 named fugitives who slipped her grasp when the capital fell, hunted by her Knights Inquisitor. The list is on a wiki of ice and fire. What is not invented is the welcome. Alys Rivers meets the hunters at the gate with ghost stories. Laborers who died in chains raising the towers. A castle that swallowed the lives of the men who built her. A castle, she says, that is thirsty still. Then the bats come shrieking out of the towers, and hardened killers run. Here is the joke. Nearly every word of her ghost story is true. The histories really do say the spirits of Harren and his sons walk those halls. The dead builders are real. Even the beams above her head are a plant, because the chronicles record that weirwood trees were cut for Harrenhal's rafters, a detail this episode pays off in the most literal way imaginable. before it ends. Watch those roots. One small correction, offered with a smile. Alys names the builder Harren the Cruel. The histories call him Harren the Black. Inside the castle waits the episode's most talked-about scene. Aemond wakes, screaming from the same recurring nightmare, his brother burning, clutching at him, dragging him down. He is feverish, bandaged, grounded, a dragon rider with no sky. Alys gathers him in and hums to him like a child. And Aemond, the one-eyed terror of the war, whispers a single word: Mother. Book readers felt the floor tilt. In Fire and Blood, Alys Rivers is not Aemond's nurse, and she is certainly not his mother. She is his lover. A woman at least twice his age, a reputed witch whose visions he comes to trust completely, and before the war is done, she is carrying his child. And the Aemond of the page is neither wounded nor grounded. He is riding Vhagar across the Riverlands in a months-long terror campaign that nobody can stop or even find. The Burning Brother dream is show psychology too, because Book Aemond knows perfectly well that his brother lives. The whole Delta fits in one word. The strangest romance in Fire and Blood just became mother. And yet, the book has plans for Alys after the dance, and later this hour she will speak of the child a mother grieves as, in her words, the one a mother loves best. You may wonder whether that word is a softening at all, or the opening move of a very long game. We will open that box in our Mysteries section. And while Aemond sweats through his nightmares at Harrenhal, in the capital, his sister is telling their mother that she has seen him. He burns, but without fire, Helaena says. But her sight is not the secret that Scene is keeping. A gray-robed visitor has just talked his way past the guards with a small stoppered flask. And what is inside it, and who finally drinks it, is where we go next. Leave Harrenhal to its fevers. The episode crosses to King's Landing, and to the boldest invention of the season. Grand Maester Orwyle pleads a delicate complaint past the door guard, and, in the captive queen's gilded apartments, confirms what the season has been whispering. Helaena is with child. He leaves a small stoppered flask with Alicent, moon tea, and a farewell. He has been her faithful servant. But there is a new queen now. He is watched, and after today he can help no more. Alicent's case is cold arithmetic. A child of Aegon's line, above all a boy, is a rival claim in swaddling clothes. And in this city, a rival claim is a hostage at best. Helaena does not argue. She answers with a mother's absolute refusal. It's mine. It's my own. It's mine. Now open the true history, because this storyline stands on air. Fire and Blood contains no wartime pregnancy, and none is possible. Helaena's 3 children were born between 122 and 127 AC, and a wiki of Ice and Fire preserves the detail that closes the door. After the murder of Little Jaehaerys, she and Aegon slept apart from then on. The only captive pregnancy story canon contains is the war's ugliest rumor, the tale mushroom called the Brothel Queens, and Gildane dismisses it as slander. The show took a rumor the book itself calls false, scrubbed it clean, and canonized it as fact. The tea itself is pure canon, and the histories add a detail the show is plainly saving: the devout Call Moon tea murder. Hold that word next to the most pious woman in this story. We are not finished with that flask, and the man who carried it in is our deepest cut of the week. By now in the true history, Orwyle sits in the black cells, marched down when the city fell, while the Queen's own Gerardis wears the chain. But keep reading his page. A year or two on, A fugitive Orwyle survives in hiding as Old Wyle, mixing moon tea in a brothel to earn his keep. The show reached into his future, found the one skill that keeps him alive there, and folded it into his present. Whoever wrote that flask into his hands has read the appendices, from a hidden heir to an unpaid debt. Rhaenyra offers Sabitha Frey a council seat. Sabitha wants what she says was promised, Harrenhal, pledged by the Queen's own son for the Winter Wolves' passage over the Twins. The reply is flat and terrible. Her son is dead. Worse, the castle she came to collect is now the bounty on Aemond's head for any hedge knight to claim. Sabitha reminds the room that Creggan Stark's host has crossed the Trident and takes the seat. For now, the true history knows this woman, and she asked no one's permission for anything. Sabitha Viprin never comes to court and is promised nothing by a living soul. When Cole and Aemond abandon Harrenhal, she takes it herself 3 days later, capturing the witch Alys Rivers as she goes. Mushroom sketches her in one phrase: a lady fond of killing men and kissing women. The show has rewritten a woman who seizes castles into a woman who petitions for them. Even the later Regency passes her over. Then the small council, and the scene this hour hangs from. Adam of Hull reports farms burned outside a place called Wendish Town, and the locals are certain of the culprit. Vhagar, the largest dragon in the world, is not dead. She is alive, riderless, and at large, her trail 2 days cold. Wendish Town is her handiwork, not her grave. And the name is a wink. It will not earn its terrible place in the histories for about another 170 years, when a very different monster burns it in the first of these novels. Then the second seed. 2 gold cloaks found dead in Flea Bottom, put to the blade by an unknown hand. 2. Hold that number. By the time this episode kneels in the Grand Sept, it will be 6. Rhaenyra reads design and wants Daemon on Caraxes, hunting the dragon. Daemon, before the full council, refuses. First, an accounting for his murdered men, especially since their wages have been withheld. And there it is, the truest sentence in the hour. The crown cannot pay its own watch because the treasury is empty, and it is empty because Tyland Lannister scattered the gold beyond Rhaenyra's reach before the city fell. Gildane gives that cunning its full weight in the phrase this video keeps returning to. It had sown the seeds of Rhaenyra's downfall, the book's engine of the tragedy, intact inside one line of dialogue. Though notice the quiet flip. In Fire and Blood, an empty-handed Rhaenyra turns grasping, and new taxes urged by Lord Celtigar teach the city to hate her. The show plays her as the wronged withholder, not the wringer of purses. The standoff moves behind closed doors. Rhaenyra, acid. Have the first somehow found myself back on Dragonstone? Her voice competing with her husband's again. Daemon argues Aemond is beaten and afraid, that there is time. She answers with the words this chapter is named for. There is treachery somewhere, and she means to uncover it. His counter is book truth in show clothing. What she seeks is revenge, and the disturbance in her city has a likelier cause. Herself. And here is the bitter joke. This video's thesis in miniature. In the true history, her treachery obsession is real. But it arrives later and aims wrong. It detonates after a disaster the show has not yet dared. The betrayal at Tumbleton, when she turns on the wrong men. A loyal dragon rider seized on suspicion. The old sea snake thrown in a cell. The book's indictment is precise. She saw enemies who were not there, and the seeing helped destroy her. The show inverts the charge, inventing a real conspiracy, real corpses, a real paymaster, and making her paranoia correct. The book only shakes its head. What that trade costs the tragedy, we will weigh before this hour is out. Word comes that Prince Joffrey has returned from the Vale. The Queen says she will come when she is able. She does not go. And while she hunts traitors inside her walls, the man she defeated is making vows in the dark woods. 4 scenes now, and in every one of them, someone stands where the book never put them. Start in the Nightwoods near Rook's Rest, where a king without a crown demands to know which way is west. Aegon will not go back to the refugee camp. Vhagar was sighted at Wendish Town. Aemond must have left a sign at Harrenhal. Larys lays out the folly, 100 leagues of open country, teeming with rivermen. And Aegon answers with a tirade we will not repeat one word of. Self-pity sharpened into viciousness. Then swears before the warrior himself to find his brother and kill him, or die in the attempt. Now, the true history. At this hour of the war, Aegon II is nobody's hunter. He is an invalid. Burned and broken at Rook's Rest, he has spent nearly a year abed, sleeping 9 hours in every 10, smuggled through his own kingdom in secret, disguised as small folk, not riding toward vengeance, carried away from it. The kill vow is invented, though the venom underneath it is faithful to the man. And where the book actually hides its fallen king is one of the finest capers in all of Fire and Blood. Hold that question. It pays off before this hour is done. Then to the Red Keep, and the scene of the night. Mysaria comes calling on Alicent, silk over steel. It is her privilege now to hear the castle's whispers, and she wishes to see the flask. So Alicent, to shield her daughter's secret, sets fire to her own name. She confesses to a lover taken after Viserys died, claims the shame as her own, and drinks the moon tea herself, choking it down while Mysaria watches. We will say it plainly. This may be the strongest scene the show has given Alicent in years. The realm's argument over it can wait for a later chapter. The book knows nothing of escape plots and cover stories. In Fire and Blood, the Alicent of this stretch of the war is the queen in chains, held in fetters of gold and going nowhere. But Mysaria's half is faithful in shape. The White Worm truly becomes the queen's mistress of whisperers in all but title. So watch her kindnesses to the captive queens with cold eyes. Septon Eustace records that much later, it was Mysaria who carried to Helaena the word of how her son Maegor died, a boy the show has never put on screen, and she chose the night Helaena went to her window. We will say no more. Not yet. Out in the Riverlands, the episode gives Gwaine Hightower its warmest minutes. He tells Cole of racing his brother Ormund as boys from the base of the Hightower to the beacon at its crown, to catch the sunrise. Every brick of that boast is real. The Hightower is the tallest structure in the Seven Kingdoms, taller than the wall itself, a stepped stone lighthouse older than memory. And when Old Town calls its banners to war, the beacon's flame burns green. Gwaine offers Cole a future in Hightower service, a home at the top of that view. It is the thing Cole no longer wants. Then the horses scream, caltrops, iron spikes seated beneath the grass. The enemy is not behind them, but ahead. The wounded animals are seen too. The show spares us the act, and so will we. 2 book notes, one small and one loaded. The small one, Gwaine should not be in this story at all. In the true history, as a wiki of Ice and Fire records, Gwaine Hightower serves in King's Landing as second in command of the City Watch. And when the gold cloaks turn at the fall of the city, he dies at the hands of his own commander, Sir Luther Largent. Hold that name. You are about to meet him. The show has placed these two men at opposite ends of the map, and quietly unwritten a killing. The loaded note. In Fire and Blood, the Caltrops is the name of a secret brotherhood of reach lords whose knives, late in the war, find two of the dance's most infamous traitors. Is an episode this fond of planted clues, winking at that brotherhood? That is our speculation, ours alone, marked as ours every time. And so to Flea Bottom, where Daemon stands with Sir Luther Largent over two murdered men of the Watch, left for the city to find. Murder as message. Luther needs no invention. The book hands him over complete, near 7 feet tall, and the histories swear he once killed a war horse with a single punch. Even his needling of demon rings true. It has been a long while since the rogue prince was the Prince of Flea Bottom, and most of these men were in swaddling clothes then. The book prefers Lord Flea Bottom, and the Watch loves Daemon for the best of reasons. Daemon made the Watch. Given command around the year 104 after the conquest, he armed them, drilled them, and dressed them in the cloaks that named them. Cloaks, the histories say, gold no matter how you turn them. When King's Landing fell, they turned for him. But the murders themselves? Say it plainly. They exist nowhere in the book. No hunted watch, no ritual killings, no hidden hand working the alleys of King's Landing. This is the hour's central invention, the one that carries everything else, and it quietly rewrites the reason this city is going to burn. Who and to what end is the thread the entire episode hangs from? The answer is not in Flea Bottom at all. It is stamped in gold, and it is waiting south along the road, in a town where a dead man is teaching history. From the bodies of Flea Bottom, the episode rides south to Tumbleton, which is fortifying. Every tree felled from there to Bitterbridge, more small folk pressed into service, for Ormund Hightower is certain the Queen's host is coming. And then the season's most dangerous man sits down to give a boy a history lesson. He asks young Daeron about Meria Martell, the yellow toad of Dorne, and in an hour built almost entirely of invention, this lesson is its most faithful stretch. Meria was around 80 when the Conqueror came, blind, nearly bald, and utterly undiminished. Ormund tells the boy she swore Dorne would ever be, in his words, unbowed, unbent. There it is, the title drop. In the book, when Rhaenys flew to Sunspear to demand her knee, the old woman answered, "Dorne has no king," then spoke the vow that became House Martell's words, unbowed, unbent, unbroken. She backed every word. The Dornish refused the dragons a battle, melted into mountain and desert, and when the dragons flew home, the spears came back out of the sand. Her men sent the Dragon King's Warden of the Sands out the highest window of the spear tower, and Dorne stayed free for more than a century and a half. So the show did not get Meria wrong. Ormund's telling is compression, 2 wars folded into one fireside tale, and even in his version, she never bows. The one invented flourish is the compliment, the only woman ever gifted with, as he puts it, a truly military mind. The book's scribes sneered the opposite, that Meria fought like a woman, with lies and treachery and witchery. A Green Patriarch is quietly rehabilitating the chronicler's villain. And our own observation. The episode takes its title from 2/3 of Maria's vow and drops the 3rd word, unbroken. Everyone in this hour ends broken, or breaking. Then they play a game on a board of carved stone pieces that appears to be Sivas. If so, it is the first time the game has been shown in live action, roughly 170 years before it reaches Westeros in the books. A wink, not an error. but mark the detail inside it. In canon, the dragon is the strongest piece, and Daeron wins with his dragon, in the very conversation where Ormund preaches that a cunning mind can resist even the most savage of beasts. The old lord loses to the dragon on his own board, sweeps the pieces to the floor, and says, "Never apologize for victory." Then the real move, a purse of freshly minted gold, the boy's face on every coin. Do you think it a good likeness? One quiet question, and a third king enters the dance. This is textbook pretender politics. In the anarchy, the medieval civil war, the dance has always been compared to. The Empress Matilda struck silver pennies in her own name. Centuries later, backers of the pretender Perkin Warbeck struck him a coin. In a world without newspapers, a coin with your face is a proclamation that fits in every purse. And where would Ormund find minting gold? Our inference, ours alone. Tyland Lannister scattered the crown's treasury, and in fire and blood, 1/4 of it sits in the Hightower's own keeping. The episode never connects those dots. We just did. Now open the true history, because all of it rests on a dead man. Remember the Grey Northman we told you to watch. At the head of the Winter Wolves, Roddy Dustin. In Fire and Blood, per a wiki of Ice and Fire, Ormund dies at the First Battle of Tumbleton, cut down by Roderick Dustin along with his cousin Sir Brynden Hightower, as Dustin takes his own death wound in the same charge. He fortifies nothing, runs no spies, mints not one coin. The Kingmaker of this episode is built on a nearly blank page and a grave. And the boy on the coins is never proclaimed king. Not by Ormund, not by anyone. Only after Aemond falls do some at Tumbleton urge a crown on him, Lord Unwin Peak loudest, and it goes nowhere. The only crown ever worn at Tumbleton is a hammered iron one on a blacksmith's bastard named Hugh. Yet the histories eventually lose track of the true Daeron, and in the decades after the dance, the realm crawls with false Daerons wearing that gentle prince's name. The show has just minted the face of Westeros's favorite future pretender, one purse at a time. Back in the Red Keep, the captive queens get a garden. Helaena stops little Rhaenyra from touching a caterpillar that feeds on nightshade, eating poison and turning it into life. Alicent lays out an escape, tonight, through a hidden door in Aemond's old chamber. Helaena knows that door. It is the way the killers came on the worst night of her life. But Rhaenyra is not coming, and Alicent talks around the abandonment until her daughter ends the scene with a scalpel. You look away when you lie. In the true history, there is no escape attempt at all. Book Alicent, the queen in chains, never runs. The sharper delta is the little girl. Book Rhaenyra is not the child left behind, but the child who got out, spirited away by Larys Strong, and carried by Sir Willis Fell to Storm's End. The show has inverted her completely. Hold on to that girl, the book has plans for her. Then to what is left of Wendish Town, where Baela and Addam of Hull rest their dragons in the ashes of Vhagar's feeding. Baela is running on empty, 50 crossings of the Trident in a fortnight, and Addam makes her stop and eat. And the show plants an unmistakable seed, a promise, half a joke, and wholly sincere, that if the world goes wrong enough, they will simply fly away together. The book has no such romance, and book readers will tell you, with great affection, that the show is shipping Baela with the wrong brother of Hull. In Fire and Blood, she defies the regents themselves to marry Alan Velaryon, Addam's brother. Nor does she belong in the Riverlands. Her place is Dragonstone, where the true history keeps a dawn appointment above her island. and that is every word we will say tonight. Addam's post is the dragon pit, and his road is short and shining. Suspicion, an accusation he never earned. A flight, and almost 4,000 loyal men raised in the name of the queen who condemned him. It ends beneath a single word cut in stone on driftmark. Loyal. If that ending stands, this romance exists, so that when the word comes, it lands like a hammer. Then the quietest gut punch of the hour. At Harrenhal, Aemond is strong enough to limp through the melted corridors, calling a name into the dark. Alys answers. She's gone. Vhagar flew in the night. No one saw where, and the prince who burned his way across 2 seasons comes apart. Without her, I'm nothing. Now be precise, because precision matters here. The show has not killed Vhagar. She is alive, riderless, and loose, and the ruin of Wendish Town is her handiwork. In the book, this separation is impossible. Aemond and Vhagar are never parted, to the very end. But the question now on the board is magnificent, because Vhagar's own history answers it. Per a wiki of Ice and Fire, she carried Visenya, then 29 riderless years, then Baelon the Brave, in the year 73 after the conquest, then Helaena Velaryon, then a boy of 10 on the day of a funeral. Precedent says a riderless Vhagar can be claimed, and the show has dragonless claimants all over the board. One last line at Harrenhal. Aemond finally asks Alys who she is, and she answers, one that has been grieved. If that sounds like a riddle, the book holds the key in one quiet detail. Every child Alys Rivers ever bore was stillborn. The show's mother of no one is grieving still. And from a prince who has lost his dragon, the episode cuts to a king who has lost everything, and to the one man willing to tell him so, to his face. Back on the Crownlands Road, the episode hands its sharpest knife to its quietest man. Aegon dares Larys to say what he is thinking, and Larys, after 3 seasons of saying nothing plainly, obliges. Most of the speech we cannot repeat here. Its 2 clean blows are the most quoted lines of the hour. As Larys says, "You were a terrible king." And then, quieter and worse, "You are a terrible man." The scene is invented. No such roadside reckoning appears anywhere in Fire and Blood. Yet the verdict is exactly the one the true history invites. The conclusion Archmaester Gildane walks his reader toward without ever saying it aloud. The show gave the book's silent judgment a voice, and chose the man who has limped through every indignity of this war. An invented scene and faithful characterization at its sharpest. Larys also reminds him of the dragon he squandered, a beast so beautiful, he says, that men named him for the sun. Real gold sits under that jab. In the true history, Aegon II so loved Sunfire's beauty that he had the dragon on the royal arms changed to gold in the beast's honor, per a wiki of Ice and Fire. Vanity, written into heraldry. But mark what this road does to Larys himself. In the book, Larys Strong never leaves King's Landing. That is the entire point of him. When the city falls, the clubfoot stays, bends the knee, and goes on whispering behind enemy lines, the likely author, say the chroniclers, of rumors that wound the queen worse than swords. The show has marched the book's one green agent in the capital out of it. Hold that thought for this episode's mysteries. Then the Grand Sept. Daemon finds his queen kneeling among 1,000 candles and laughs. She does not. He asks, "The people or the 7?" Her answer is one word, both. The faith gives her nothing back. The Septons chant at the edges and offer only candle smoke. And Daemon's news is worse than the silence. 4 more of his men lie dead. 6 now, counting the first 2. All gold cloaks, all killed the same way. He tells her she is tired, hearing omens in the wind. These are men, nothing more. Her reply cuts to the bone. Then why can no one find them? The book's correction points at one family. Some reporting around the hour names the cleric who refuses her, the High Septon. If so, the true history objects. In 130 AC, the High Septon does not live in King's Landing at all. Per a wiki of ice and fire, the faith's seat in this age is the Starry Sept in Old Town, behind Hightower walls, the very family this episode just caught minting a king. And the capital's real anti-dragon churchman in the book is a one-handed street prophet called the Shepherd, whose preaching will help light one of the most terrible nights of the whole dance. More than that, we hold. The faith's coldness, though, is authentically bookish. The show invented the geography, not the grievance. In the Riverlands, Cole's march is dying by inches. Brambles wall the lowlands as if the land itself had enlisted. Desertion moves through the column like fever, and Gwaine finally says it aloud. No one still sees sense in this plan, himself included. Cole cuts straight through. A column bleeding men daily in hostile country is the prelude to the battle where the Kingmaker's story ends, and in fire and blood, that bleeding was the Riverman's masterpiece, inflicted on Cole's host by design. The show let Cole play the Wraith all hour. His column starves anyway. Same rhyme, flipped colors. Back at the camp, one loaded beat. Aegon snaps at Larys about the ship, too loudly, and a stranger's voice answers from the crowd. They have been overheard. No refugee camp exists in the book, and no ship plan either. But the port is a wink. The plan is to sail from Duskendale, the town Criston Cole sacked in this war's very first weeks. The Hidden King hopes to slip quietly out of a war through one of its first wounds. Night, and the Queen's move. The bribed maid signals. Alicent and Helaena slip out dressed as servants. Then Mysaria steps from the shadows, reads the scheme in a glance, and names the heart of it in 3 words. An inconvenient heir. The corridor becomes the best-written duel of the hour. Alicent warns what thrones do to those who serve them, saying the crown is a weight that crushes whoever wears it, and reaches for the oldest truth she knows about her rival. Rhaenyra and Daemon have ever been, in her words, 2 sides of a coin, now and always, a line that lands twice in an hour that just minted a boy's face onto gold. Midway, Helaena unravels. I need to see the moon. A barred window has to do. Alicent offers silence for favor. Mysaria's answer is never shown. The scene is invented whole. The book's captive queens never attempt escape. But both women's fates are already fixed, far beyond this night. Alicent survives. Not the scene, the entire war. And Helaena's ending is not in any corridor. The true history keeps her appointment at a window in Maegor's holdfast. And that is every word we will say tonight. Watch how often this show brings her to windows. The writers know where she is going. As for Mysaria's silence, it is the most bookish thing in the scene. The White Worm never buries a secret. She times them, spending each at the hour it cuts deepest. Tonight, a secret about Helaena went into her vault. Book readers know the interest it gathers. Then, the saddest small scene of the hour. Rhaenyra comes at last to Joffrey, and her son is asleep. An attendant tells her gently that the boy fought to stay awake for her as long as he could. The Queen says nothing. The script gives her no line at all. The silence is the scene, a mother who has crossed a continent of grief and cannot cross a doorway. Where Joffrey's road leads, the book gives us nothing we can honestly report. So we hold it. But a queen curdling under grief, hard and distant, where she was once warmest, is faithful to the very marrow of the true history. And then, the storm. Cole drives his column through sheeting rain, and when a man collapses in the mud, the order down the line is the coldest of the season. No burial, no pause. The fallen stay where they drop. Exhaustion as warfare, weather as executioner, and the man at the head of the shrinking column never turns. In the book, this pitiless arithmetic is the overture to the ambush that ends the Kingmaker, and we will tell that battle in full before this video is done. The show plays the overture note for note. It has simply let Cole conduct it himself. The storm is carrying Cole toward Stony Sept, and toward the trap this episode's first scene quietly set. But before the river closes on the Kingmaker, the show takes us back to Harrenhal, where the gates are about to be broken a second time, and where a wounded prince without his dragon is about to remind the realm exactly what he is. While Cole's column stumbles south through the rain, the episode returns to the one castle in Westeros that fights its own battles. A second party of bounty hunters has come for the Kinslayer. These are not the frightened men Alys Rivers turned away with ghost stories earlier. These are rougher men, sea raiders among them, and their leader calls her witch, and worse, then reaches for one word that names his birthplace: Salt Wife. In the true history, a Salt Wife is an institution of the Ironborn Old Way, a woman carried off in a raid and kept as a lesser wife. In this year of the dance, Dalton Greyjoy is taking Lord Farman's daughters as Salt Wives. The deeper rhyme is on the record at A Wiki of Ice and Fire. Harrenhal was built by Ironborn House Hoare, and Harren's grandfather, Harwin Hoare, killed Lady Agnes Blackwood when she refused to become his Salt Wife. The Iron Man is reenacting the Builder dynasty's founding crime inside the very castle it built. And Harrenhal never lets a debt like that go unpaid. Alys does not flinch. Will they speak to her so? She asks with a queen's contempt. In the shadow of her own fortress? And the fortress answers. Aemond Targaryen, half-healed and wholly without his dragon, comes out of Harrenhal like a ghost story, given a sword. When it is over, every hunter is dead, and the last of them lies slumped among the pale roots of the heart tree, as if the old god itself had taken him. That image is older than it looks. Harren the Black cut down weirwoods for this castle's very rafters and beams. The oldest ghost tale of Harrenhal says Harren and his sons walk its halls by night, burning, and any man who looks on them is taken by the same fire. Alys warned the first party, the castle swallows the greedy. And she's always thirsty. The second party came anyway. Book Aemond is every bit this deadly, but neither wounded nor grounded. He is on Vhagar's back, waging months of terror over the Riverlands. The show made him the thing men hunt. The book made him the thing that hunts. At the camp near Rook's Rest, a hooded man walks out of the show's drowned file. Tyland Lannister. Alive. The show never explains it, and the book cannot, because Book Tyland never crosses the sea. Captured the day King's Landing falls, he is given to the Queen's interrogators for one thing: the gold. At the war's beginning, he split the Crown's treasury 4 ways: the Iron Bank of Braavos, Casterly Rock, Old Town, and a war chest. That split is the engine under this whole hour: the empty treasury, the unpaid watch. The chronicler Gildane writes that it sowed the seeds of Rhaenyra's downfall. Her interrogators take his side, and still he never gives up the gold. And keep your eye on that silken hood. Why he ends the dance wearing one is a door we will open in the mysteries section. At the wagons, the 2 counselors fight over their king like players over a piece. Larys wants Braavos. Tyland wants Lannisport and the Rock. Both are arguing over the wrong map, because the true history hides this king where neither would dare suggest. Head shaved in small folk rags, aboard a fishing boat for Dragonstone, the queen's own island, the last place she would think to look. Then the plan acquires a witness. The eavesdropper from the refugee camp arrives to collect, giving orders as though the king had made him hand. We will spare you his name. Aegon rises. What follows, we watch only in Larys's and Tyland's faces. When it is done, the king delivers the episode's coldest correction. You may call me your grace. Nothing this season is more faithful to the book's Aegon II. Not the escape, the pettiness. In the capital, the city watch is close to breaking, whispering of a spirit that kills the king's men. Sir Luthor Largent shames them to their feet. We are hunters, not prey. Mark that line. This hour is not finished with it. Then Daemon takes the room, on the truest ground the scene owns. In the book, the watch is his creature. He commanded it a generation ago, armed it, gave the men their gold cloaks. The city remembered what to call him, Lord Flea Bottom. The rally is memory, not invention. The dream he sells, the seven kingdoms swelling into the new Valyria, is show rhetoric. The men roar anyway. Then word arrives from River Row. Someone has been caught. And on a cold rise above Stony Sept, Cole's campaign ends not with a battle, but with a view. The rivermen have crossed the water and burned the bridge behind them. Ormund Hightower says it for the column. So we failed. Here is the book's joke under the whole hour. Refuse the fight, burn the crossings, let the land kill. That doctrine is not Cole's. In Fire and Blood, it belongs to the rivermen, and it is practiced against Cole himself on this very march. The show loaned him the Wraith's part for a single hour. Stony Sept is the book taking its ending back. The hour holds two ends of one rope. In King's Landing, a captured man is about to speak a king's name aloud. And on a road with no way home, the man they called Kingmaker is about to choose the manner of his death. While Cole's column shivers beside a burned bridge, the capital finally gets its answer. In a cellar beneath King's Landing, the captured assassin is put to the question, and we will leave that scene where the show leaves it, in shadows on a wall. What spills out matters more. He acted alone. He never saw his employer's face. He believed it was the king's work. Which king? From his boot comes a gold coin, and with it the line the mystery was built for. "Compliments of King Daeron Targaryen," he said, "for killing traitors to his throne." The confession has nowhere to land in the book. Fire and Blood knows no green murder cell, no coins in assassin's boots, nothing to confess. What is true cuts the other way. The Inquisition belongs to Rhaenyra, Knight's Inquisitor, hunting the 6 who escaped her, paid informers, heads on spikes. The show built this cellar for her enemy's agent. The book built the same cellar, and it was hers. Then dawn on the riverbank, and the farewell the hour was built to carry. Gwaine offers Cole the honorable road. Return to Tumbleton. Learn what Ormond intends. Live. Cole refuses. They will raft the river or swim it and go to the enemy. Gwaine does the arithmetic. Half the men they marched out with, 200 rivermen for every one of theirs. It would march us towards certain death, he says. Then the realization that reframes the episode. This was your goal, wasn't it? All along. Cole does not deny it. He has been a servant all his life, he says, and he will not go back to being spurned. What he claims instead is authorship. I am the realm's greatest warrior, he declares, and chooses the death to match, clear-eyed, unbent, glorious in battle. The reward is memory. and they will sing songs of it, and the audience, and Queen Alicent herself, will hear them. They clasp arms, and Gwaine rides for Tumbleton, with Cole's blessing, not as a deserter. Even that exit is a divergence. The book's Gwaine, as we told you earlier, dies at the fall of King's Landing, at Luther Largent's hands. Every mile he rides now is borrowed road. Now, let the true history answer him, because Fire and Blood has already written the death Cole is asking for, and it refuses him everything. He marches south along the God's Eye with a bled and starving host, and at a stony ridge, the rivermen and the winter wolves are waiting, 2 men for every one of his. Cole rides out to parley with the 3 enemy commanders and offers to strike his banners if his men's lives are spared. He is refused. Sir Garibald Grey answers that his promise was made to the dead, so Cole offers his body instead, challenging all 3 commanders at once. And Pate of Longleaf answers with the cruelest line in the whole dance. "I'll have no songs about how brave you died, Kingmaker." And in the same breath, "There's tens of thousands dead on your account." Then Red Rob Rivers and 2 longbowmen beside him loose, and 3 arrows take Criston Cole down before the armies ever close. No duel, no last stand, no song. After the rout, Garibald Grey names the field. Today was butchery, not battle. The Butcher's Ball, a wiki of ice and fire, keeps every detail. The Kingmaker's head goes to the first battle of Tumbleton on a spear. Mark what the book insists on. Cole does not die refusing to yield. He tried to yield, for his men's sake, and was denied even that. Denied surrender, denied a duel, denied a song. And mark the calendar. The Butcher's Ball comes before First Tumbleton, so the show has run the sequence backwards around its Episode 4 battle. This Cole demands, almost word for word, everything the book refuses him. An irony so cleanly engineered, it is hard to read as accident. We will hear what the critics made of it later. Back in the Red Keep, the coin finishes its journey. Alyn of Hull is reporting diminished Velaryon resources. Rhaenyra notes dryly that she knows the condition well. Then Daemon tosses a gold coin onto the council table. The price of our humiliation. Not what it is, who it is. Young Daeron's stamped face, and as Daemon reports, Ormund has declared him king. A 3rd king, then. And Daemon's vow, they should have, he says, burned them when we had the chance. The book's ledger we gave at Tumbleton. No coin was ever minted, no one ever declared Daeron king. Yet her poverty is real, the book's actual engine of her fall. And in fairness, as Screen Rant notes, even the show frames Daeron less as claimant than instrument, a boy made a symbol by another man's hand. Then the finale. 3 threads braided into one, Cole's prayer carried across all of it. In the Queen's chamber, a cat finds a draft, and a hidden panel gives way. Maegor's secret passages. Alicent and Helaena slip inside with a single lantern, and the passage dead ends at brick. The door has closed behind them. The lantern falls. Darkness. And here is the astonishing part. The dead end is canon by design. Maegor the Cruel built the Red Keep's secret ways, feasted his builders when the work was done, then killed every one of them so the walls would keep only his secrets. A wiki of ice and fire preserves the crueler detail. Maegor's holdfast is the one building with no passages inside at all. For Maegor wanted no rats in his own walls. One hidden escape door, connecting to nothing. Knowingly or not, this cliffhanger is the most book-accurate beat of the hour. 2 queens sealed in the dark by a king 2 centuries dead. And the one man who ever knew a true way out, Larys Strong, has already spent it on Aegon. Daemon's thread finds the watch barracks dark and silent. Inside, his murdered men, the watch's leadership, sit arranged around a dinner table in a parody of a feast, Sir Luther Largent at its head, and daubed on the wall above them, a name for the meal, a feast for traitors. The show shoots it as stillness and candlelight, and Daemon's face is the story. The tableau is invented, and it is also stolen. In Fire and Blood, it is the Blacks who stage a display of feasting corpses, the dead of the fish feed seated at a ghastly meal along Cole's line of march. The show did not invent the Feast of Corpses. It stole it from the Rivermen and gave it to the Hightowers. Even the accusation on the wall is book-grounded. The gold cloaks did betray the Greens, opening King's Landing to Rhaenyra without a battle. As for Luthor, the book kills him months from now, and from below, pulled down by the city's own mob in Cobbler's Square. No conspiracy required. One wink, ours alone. On the night the book needs Luthor innocent of a queen's death, his alibi is supper, with 300 gold cloaks at a barracks. His book alibi became his show death scene, likely deliberate, and quietly brilliant if so. Over it all runs Cole's litany, asking sight of the maiden, a sword of the warrior, strength of the smith, the crone's light on the road, and the last of the seven receives the hour's final line, the episode's death wish in 5 words. The stranger offers us rest. Cut to black. The hour ends. The questions do not. Which brings us, as always, to the mysteries. This hour does not end when the screen goes dark. It leaves questions scattered like caltrops on the road ahead. 6 of them. For each, what the episode plants and what the true history answers, or refuses to. Mystery 1. The spine of the hour. Who is killing the gold cloaks, and how deep does King Daeron's network run? The episode hands us a coin and a confession. Compliments of King Daeron Targaryen, he said. And the book's answer, the strangest of the night, is silence. Nowhere in Fire and Blood is there a green murder cell in King's Landing. In the true history, the city turns on Rhaenyra all by itself. Her treasury is empty. Her taxes bite to the bone. Hunger spreads. A ragged street prophet called the Shepherd rises to preach against the dragons, and her own suspicion curdles. Nobody needed to murder her reign. It bled out on its own. So the real mystery is not who is killing the gold cloaks. It is who the show wants you to blame for Rhaenyra's fall. Hold that question. 2 footnotes. First, a wink we take for deliberate, and the reading is ours. When rumor accused Luther Largent of a terrible crime, the histories cleared him for one reason. At the fatal hour he was at supper, verifiably, with 300 gold cloaks in a barracks. The show just ended him at a barracks supper table. His book alibi became his death scene. Second, the book does have a green agent whispering poison inside the occupied city. Per a wiki of Ice and Fire, that is Larys Strong, who never left the capital. If a second hand is ever revealed, book logic points at exactly one man. Mystery 2. What is Alys Rivers? The show refuses to say. So does the book. 3 chroniclers, 3 different women. Munkin says a serving wench with a taste for potions. Septon Eustace says a woods witch. Mushroom says an enchantress bathing in blood to keep her youth, if you believe the court fool. Even skeptics grant she was at least 40 when the dance began, and looked half of it. The visions are testimony too, and the witness is Aemond himself. She found his enemies in storm clouds, in mountain pools, in cookfire flames. And her grief is book true. Every child Alys Rivers ever carried was stillborn. When she is asked who she is and answers, one that has been grieved. That is her book history in 5 words. And remember, in the book she is not his mother figure, but his lover. A woman at least twice his age. The histories keep one final Alys chapter. In the year 132 after the conquest, long after the dragons finish dancing, and it may be the strangest in the book. We will not spoil it. Only remember the word she taught Aemond to say. Mystery 3. Where did Vhagar go? She's gone, Alys says, and gone means missing. Not dead, missing. Riderless. At large. The burned farms in her wake prove she lives, and no one on either side knows where the largest living dragon in the world is. So, can a riderless Vhagar be claimed? Yes, again and again. When Queen Visenya died, Vhagar sat riderless for 29 years, until Prince Baelon claimed her. Riderless again, until young Helaena Velaryon, a dragon rider before she was 12. And when Helaena died, a boy of 10 claimed the oldest dragon in the world at her funeral. That boy was Aemond. Any rider with the blood and the nerve can take her, and count the dragonless riders this season has quietly placed on the board. One tease. In the book, Vhagar has one appointment left to keep, above a lake in the Riverlands. The show has either delayed it or transformed it. Mystery 4. What does the man in the hood actually want? Strip away the theater, and the answer is arithmetic. The gold is the game. As master of coin, Tyland Lannister split the crown's treasury 4 ways: the Iron Bank of Bravos, Casterly Rock, Old Town, and a war chest. And Archmaester Gildane's verdict is that this single act of cunning sowed the seeds of Rhaenyra's downfall. Every unpaid cloak in this episode is that ledger, quietly working. As for the hood, keep your eye on it. In the book, the reason Tyland ends the dance wearing one is among the cruelest and strangest redemption stories in the histories. Only this much: the Queen's interrogators take his sight, and still, he never gives up the gold. Mystery 5. What happens to Helaena's baby? Plain honesty, this is the one storyline with no book rails beneath it. The book gives this child no fate, because the book gives Helaena no child. Her 3 children were born years before the war, and the youngest, a little son named Maegor, the show has simply never had. This pregnancy is Maegor's replacement, and book readers are, for once, as blind as everyone else. The fandom is already arguing over the father. We will get there. One eerie footnote: the only captive pregnancy story the true history contains is a slander Gildane throws out of his own book. The show took the one thing even the dance's dirtiest gossip invented, and made a gentler version of it true. 2 smaller mysteries fold in. Mysaria now holds the most dangerous secret in King's Landing, and the book tells us what she does with secrets. She never buries them. She times them like blades. She always knows the perfect moment to spend one, until the day she misses the one secret that matters. When to run, and Rhaenyra, the child left behind. A perfect inversion. In the book, Rhaenyra is the child who got out, smuggled from the city by a sworn knight before it ever fell. The show has locked the book's one escaped child inside a tower. Hold on to her name. She survives the dance, and she becomes the price of ending it. Mystery 6. Our Closer. The wall inside the walls. Accident or trap? Every piece of the answer sits in the histories. King Maegor built the Red Keep's secret passages himself, and per a wiki of ice and fire, when the work was done he feasted his builders for 3 days, then had every one of them killed, so no living man but he would know the ways. He wanted no rats in his own walls, and Maegor's holdfast, where the queens are held, is the one structure in the keep with no inner passages at all. Just a single hidden escape door that connects to nothing. A secret way out of Maegor's holdfast that dead ends in brick is not a plot hole. It may be the most book-accurate moment in the episode. The histories allow one other reading. One man knew a true way out, and he is a green agent, unaccounted for, whose name has already come up tonight. A dead king's trap, or a missing key in a living man's pocket. Either way, two cursed castles in a single hour, Harrenhal and the Red Keep, and in both, the castle itself is the character. The Queen's jailer is a king who has been dead for 2 centuries. Those are our questions. We were not the only ones asking. This episode split the realm down the middle, praised as the season's finest and condemned as its weakest, sometimes by the same voices. Now, out of the histories and into the argument, how the realm received this hour. Now, the realm reacts. This week, the argument begins inside a single house. Winter is Coming, one of the fandom's biggest outlets, graded this episode twice. Its recap gave the hour an A+, calling it, quote, "the first episode of the season that really reminded me of classic Game of Thrones at its best." Its own Book Changes column gave the same hour a C, quote, "the weakest of the season so far, with too many unconnected storylines. One outlet, one episode, 2 grades and alphabet apart." Last week, a major book reader outlet branded Tumbleton the least faithful episode of the entire series. This is that moment's sequel. This season, faithful and good television have come apart, and episode 5 is where the seam shows. And the tear runs straight through one question. Call it the Whitewash War. Screen Rant put it plainly, with Ormund's conspiracy revealed, quote, "Rhaenyra's downfall won't be the result of her own madness or cruelty, but the actions of further green enemies." Winter is Coming's C column attacked the same invention on plausibility, asking how a lord who has never set foot in King's Landing runs spies there, in a city where Meria and Larys hold the webs. Our lane is the book's own engine, and we have walked it all night. Tyland's hidden gold, Celtigar's crushing taxes, paranoia, a city curdling on its own until the small folk called their queen, in the book's own words, King Maegor with teats. The true history needs no conspiracy to destroy Rhaenyra. The show has hired one. Whether that is mercy for a character or an injury to the tragedy is the defining trade of the season. We will let you weigh it. Beyond that fault line, the temperature ran warm, but never unanimous. Den of Geek gave the hour 4 out of 5 and read it as a meditation on mortality and service. Collider went 8 out of 10 and loved the swerve into outright horror. The AV Club landed on B+, calling the episode preoccupied with finality, and singled out the farewell between Cole and Gwaine as the best acted scene of the night. Ready Steady Cut shrugged it off as the mid-season slump, while still liking the season. Then, the rounds. On Cole, the fandom has arrived at something close to consensus. The Kingmaker is marching into the Butcher's Ball, and he will not march out. An interview in Variety describing his march as a suicide mission poured fuel on the fire. Games Radar wrote that the hour sets up a death from the book in a very ironic way, and book readers know exactly why. The songs he demands are the songs the true history refuses him. We told you the ambush, the refused surrender, the 3 arrows. The fandom knows the line that is coming. On the pregnancy, the paternity debate is split. Comicbook.com argues the baby is Aemond's, leaning on the dream link between the siblings. The majority read is simpler. Aegon, in the narrow window the timeline allows. The book, as we said, offers no rails here. One caution, the Moon Tea headlines from 2 years ago are Season 2's story, not this baby's. And on one thing, nearly everyone agrees. Alicent draining that cup herself is her best scene in seasons. On Alys, Winter is Coming named her the highlight of the hour, and the week's hottest character debate is what the show has done to her. Sanitizing the book's strangest romance, or building something stranger still. Our answer is the book's own. 3 chroniclers, 3 Alyses, a serving wench, a woods witch, an enchantress out of a dark tale. The histories refuse to choose, and now the show has added a 4th, Mother. On Vhagar, the argument split into 2 questions. Where did she go, and who could claim her? The second is the good one. She has flown riderless before, for 29 years, and she was claimed at a funeral by a boy of 10. A riderless Vhagar is not an ending. She is a prize, and the board is full of dragonless players. On Tyland, NPR delivered the mock of the week. He's just, quote, here now. But book readers answered with grief, because the escape may delete one of the strangest redemption arcs in the histories. Keep your eye on that silk hood. The reason the book's Tyland one day wears one is a story we are not done telling. On Baela and Addam, Winter is Coming went on record, hoping the show lets them have each other. The book's answer is a one-word epitaph on a grave at Driftmark, and a marriage, after the war, to Alan. The show is shipping Baela with the wrong brother of Hull, and if the grave still stands, this romance exists to make that single word land like a hammer. And the cliffhanger, NPR again, on the Queen's dead end. A not-so-secret door is just a door. Fair and funny. But our answer is the one book readers already know. Both women's fates lie far beyond this night, so survival is the book-aligned outcome. And that brick wall is secretly the most book-accurate beat of the entire hour. A dead end built by Maegor is not lazy writing, it is homework. Every one of those arguments is really one argument, so let us settle it, our honest verdict. We begin by honoring what this hour gets right, and we will do it loudly, because it gets a great deal right. The Meria lesson is near verbatim canon told with love. The closest this season has ever come to simply reading the book aloud. The empty treasury, grinding beneath every scene, is the book's actual root cause of the fall, kept intact down to the hidden gold. The brick wall at the bottom of that tunnel is, quietly, the most book-accurate beat of the entire episode. And Cole's hunger for songs is engineered irony, a wound the true history will pay off with the cruelest line in all the dance. Add the smaller things the hour keeps true, the faith's coldness toward dragons, Daemon's bond with the watch he made, Aegon's smallness, and the verdict Larys pronounces over it. None of that exists in the book as scenes. All of it exists in the book as truth. But then we must name what the hour rewrites, and name it precisely. Ormund Hightower is a dead man giving history lessons. Daeron was never a king, and never asked to be. Tyland never sailed. Luthor Largent died from below, not from above. Helaena's baby exists nowhere in the histories, and the city that destroys Rhaenyra in the book needed no conspiracy at all. Only her own taxes, her own paranoia, and her own city watch. So the fandom's split grade is not a contradiction to be solved. It is the honest verdict, and we will sign our name beneath it. This is what it looks like when a show stops adapting the tragedy and starts contesting it. An A+ hour of television, built by rewriting why Rhaenyra falls. And consider what the hour has loaded, a Kingmaker marching toward the one line in the true history that denies him his songs. A missing dragon with one appointment left to keep, above a lake in the Riverlands. And 2 queens in the dark, sealed inside walls raised by a paranoid king long dead. who killed his own builders so that only he would ever know the way out. When those fuses reach their end, we will be here, with the book open. Now, tell us below, which change cuts deepest? The conspiracy, the pregnancy, or the vanished dragon? Make your case, because we read every comment. And the conversation beneath these breakdowns has become the finest Meester's conclave on this side of the screen. If tonight's journey earned your time, subscribe, and you will find our full histories waiting for you below. The men who closed the trap at the Butcher's Ball. Vhagar, and every rider who ever knew her. The dragon seeds themselves. The stories they never told you. That is our trade. And this hour just handed us 3 more. Until the next raven flies, this has been Westeros Within.